You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.
Business of Cannabis is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more.
You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.
This is the Business of Cannabis.
The Business of Cannabis.
Welcome again to the Business of Cannabis. This is a show where we examine the most important business issues in the North American cannabis industry. I'm Dave Sky, here with my co-host Matt Cook, and today we'll be talking to Austin Green about Alpine IQ, which, to simplify things, is a marketing software platform for cannabis retailers. Our second guest is Riel Roussopoulos, a brand and marketing expert with Cannabis Wiki. I'll be chatting with Riel about PR and brand management, and how to develop a company's brand story and how to get that story out to the public. The theme of this week's show is marketing, classic marketing, figuring out how to best position yourself in the retail landscape and how to differentiate yourself in what is becoming an increasingly crowded place to do business. I'm Dave Sky, along with Matt Cook, and this is the Business of Cannabis. So welcome back to the Business of Cannabis. We're excited for our next guest, Austin Green from Alpine IQ. Austin, I would describe as a true entrepreneur, graduates from the University of Oklahoma in 2016 and co-founds BlinkSync, which was a company that developed a biometric device that prevents trucking accidents due to fatigue, which is pretty cool. Then transitions to Alpine IQ, which I think you'll find is a remarkably robust software platform that covers data compliance, loyalty, customer analytics, and so much more. So there's lots to talk about. Austin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So Alpine IQ does a lot of stuff. Maybe you could just tell us, how did it get started? Like, what was the vision behind it, and what's the story that it started from one point and now seems to encompass a broad range of services in the cannabis space?
Yeah, no, that's actually a really interesting story. So early on in our heyday, we were focused on being a data company, but we were born out of a failed acquisition from a company called Tilray. So one of our, if you guys are familiar with them, if not, they're a big LP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
One of our founders was working there, and they were acquiring a bunch of retail locations in North America, and they needed a data aggregation software. And I'm sure you guys are aware, especially back then, but it's still the case today, a lot of these tech tools operate in silos. So they needed something to kind of stand in the middle and pull everything and act as kind of the system of record for all data. And that was where our other co-founder kind of stepped in to help build it. And interestingly enough, our two co-founders are brothers. So, he steps in, they start building this thing, and the acquisition actually failed. So they then decided to bring Alpine to the public market. And I actually joined the team pretty quickly after that when they started hiring the first couple, head salespeople. I was actually employee number 4, and since then we have just been running and gunning.
Is that what they call you, employee number 4 at the office?
That's what I have a name tag.
4, get over here. I hate 5. Yeah.
No, it's a really cool story. I always like hearing about how people, ended up where they are, right? And it's usually not the direct route.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's never by plan. Yeah.
No. So, Austin, why don't you tell us a bit about the platform and what it does? Because, from what I can see, it does a lot. But just talk to us a bit about the platform.
Yeah, of course. So, kind of like I said, we were born as a data company. Our initial goal was to step in the middle of the fragmented world of cannabis tech tools and integrate and aggregate everything. And especially back then, it's still kind of the case today. A lot of these tools that your average cannabis retailer will be using, they don't really integrate. They operate in their own world. And oftentimes, a lot of these tools are also failed blue chip companies. So you're just dealing with a lot of issues that really wouldn't exist in regular retail environments. So, what we're doing is we're stepping in the middle and aggregating and integrating everything. So we're pulling data from the point of sale, the e-commerce provider, the website, other physical flat files, and we're standing in the middle, basically cleaning up all of their data. So contact enrichment, we're getting rid of duplicate records, we're adding new information based on third-party sources to already existing sources. We're just making all of the data mirror itself for every tech tool and be usable. And then the next thing we do is we're running machine learning driven audience segmentation, which is a very nice way of us saying we're curating down all of their customers into more ideal audiences so we can then effectively market to them through all of our different marketing channels. And we also have a lot of ways to personalize all of that good stuff, but that's what powers everything in-house for Alpine and any third-party output that we are connected to. So, today we've got in-house loyalty. We're very compliance focused. We have a lot of tools there. We have SMS, we have email, we have browser push notifications, which we just released this week. And we also are about to release native push notifications with native apps. So a whole slew of marketing channels. We work with third-party email tools, programmatic advertisers, e-commerce providers, third-party data lakes, in-store screen displays, third-party gift card companies. We have a full suite of data analytics, which overarchingly will replace a lot of other analytics tools that customers use. And we can set up automated reporting for that. We can push it out through email, Slack. I mean, we are, in the truest sense of the word, a data partner, but we leverage all that data to also be your partner in the world of marketing tools and making sure you're getting, you're very effective with your marketing and engaging in that regard.
So I'm getting excited because I'm a bit of a data geek. So I love hearing, what you're talking about. But, for some people that maybe aren't like data geeks, what's the benefit of the platform and how can they use it like day to day to help build their business?
Yeah, so I would say the main benefit on that side of things and kind of the more generalized approach to describing it would be we are providing marketing tools that allow you to market to the right person at the right time with the right information. And you're putting your loyalty program in the palm of their hand through apps and different marketing channels so that they get a full experience for your brand, not only inside the store, but also outside the store.
So let's delve into it to continue what Matt's kind of. So for someone listening, I'm a dispensary owner.
Mm-hmm.
I have 5 dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
Let's use that as 10 dispensaries, whatever, a test case. Let's say I'm in the rec side and I'm on the medicinal side, just to make it complicated for you. Take or not, I don't know, maybe not. Take me through, I come in and I buy something.
Mm-hmm.
Now take me through, how does loyalty kick in? What do you mean by push notifications, native push, SMS, email? Take me through, just for a few, how that would work, and then how that would make my life better as a dispensary owner.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So if you're the consumer in this situation, you would go in and make a purchase. And what's nice is all of that purchase history, that data is in your point of sale. And we also have that data. So we understand how much you're purchasing, what you're purchasing, all that fun stuff, and we reward points accordingly. And so you're going to have the ability to interact with the brand through a native app. And what I mean by that is an app from the App Store where you as a customer can see all of your loyalty points, discounts relevant to you as a consumer. So product level discounts based on things you purchased, categorical level discounts, birthday discounts, all the fun stuff that are relevant to you. It's really mimicking the coupon book of old.
So would that be like a white label thing? Like, so I go into Dave's cannabis shop, and it's Dave's app, or is it a different app, or
it would be Dave's app. The
amazing, yeah.
No idea that Alpine exists, right? It's okay. Dave's. It's registered under Dave. It's branded for Dave. All that good stuff. And what's great is that customer also will have the ability to order through that app. Now that Apple just made that, just released the ruling,
right?
The customer can actually place an order through that app. And to touch back on your other question, native push notifications, that's just an app itself giving you a notification. So if you're on your phone and your Instagram gives you a notification because someone commented on your post, that's a native push notification. And we'll be able to do those as another form of marketing for customers that are leveraging the native app side of things.
So let's keep going. I bought something. You now have, as a dispensary owner, I now have information about this customer, what they buy, how often they buy, when they bought. Mm-hmm. They're getting points. They can go in with this app and then go, oh, on my birthday, I get 10% off. And I assume you're sending messages to them. So take us through that, of how that would work. Is there a separate software to like manage my SMS marketing? How would that work?
Yeah, no. So all you would be managing all 4 of those forms of marketing inside of Alpine, and the customer can receive notifications through any form of marketing that they, let's say, have a birthday discount. But all of their, again, loyalty discounting stuff would live inside of the app. So they would, if a customer goes into Dave's cannabis shop, they would have their app in hand and be able to show any discount that they have inside that app to a bud tender and then apply it to the cart.
Is it by telephone number? Is it by, how does that work? What's the
so on the point of sale side of things, yes, our source of truth that we track everything through would be either a phone number or email. But again, if the customer already has their app open, then they are looking at their own view of their information. So it would already be connected to that phone number at that point.
Oh, cool. Can you pay through the app, or is that, or you
so we will not be actually facilitating the payment processing. That's going to be on Dutchie or Jane or Weed Maps, whichever e-commerce menu is actually plugged into the app at any given time. But they still order through the view of the app. So from the customer's perspective, they're none the wiser, but we will not be facilitating that payment.
Cool. And gift cards, is that part of the app too, or is that?
Not today. We have a very basic integration with a gift card company. And when I say basic, I really do mean basic. It really just displays visual information for the loyalty program, and it looks pretty. There's not a whole lot of functionality there. We are hoping that may change, but we also have a ton in the works for Alpine in the next 12 to 18 months outside of that comment.
That's actually a great segue. So what do you see coming down the pipe in the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, so native apps, one, that is we're about to release those, and that's going to be awesome. That's going to really change the landscape of marketing for cannabis companies in a very good way. But we're also building out a brand dashboard. So we're going to be able to do a lot of cool stuff with brands and help them out with market analytics and different things that are going to allow them to market in a lot more effective, targeted way as well. And to be honest with you, I mean, I know those are the next couple things on the horizon, but I would be very surprised if there weren't a lot more on top of that, because our developers are just wizards when it comes to this sort of thing. I mean, I like to say that I am a race car driver that's driving a very, very nice race car, but I couldn't tell you anything about what's under the hood and how they make it so fast. And that's kind of still runs true today.
That's kind of like me and Dave.
That's probably everyone in the world. Like, I don't know how a light bulb works, but let alone a race car. But other than if it works because you've turned the switch on. Exactly. But let me ask you, picking up on brand. I find this so interesting because right now the focus tends to be on the experience in the retail location. A brand is spoken of, but it's not in the forefront. How does that relate to me as a dispensary owner? Let's talk about first the dispensary experience, and how would I then use what you guys are planning to benefit me? And then secondly, flip it to the brand, the provide, how would it benefit them, and how are they going to work with the retail side?
Yeah. So happy to touch on that. So what we've found is it's very hard for the brands to market, right? It's kind of like having one hand tied behind your back in a blindfold. Cannabis marketing in general is just tough, and it's tougher for brands because they don't have the physical location aspect. So we're kind of solving that. We're going to allow brands to work with retailers to market through the physical location of the retailer, whether it's, pop-up stands or whatever, or actually working with the bud tenders and managers to promote that brand more. And then we're going to facilitate a program that kicks back rewards to bud tenders to fix the bud tender turnover problem. So as a retailer, one of the biggest value adds you would receive is fixing bud tender turnover, increasing pay for bud tenders and managers, and being able to also receive a kickback as the retailer for working with this brand. And obviously, we're not going to force these relationships. So retailers will have the ability to choose the brands they're working with based on brands they actually like and they sell. But it's going to be a huge value add for both the brands and the retailers.
So, take me, what do you mean by how you're going to solve the bud tender turnover? How's that?
So bud tender turnover is crazy, right? There's just very hard to keep bud tenders around for an extended period of time. And a lot of that has to do with salary. So if you can increase the salary for bud tenders for specific stores, then they're going to be able to keep bud tenders around a lot longer.
Oh, so they're going to get comped based on their interaction with Alpine IQ, because it's trackable, it's data oriented,
correct,
it's real, and then I assume as a dispensary owner, if Dave's dispensary, I'm happy to do that because I can see it. It's real.
Exactly.
You did this. You sold this. You performed these, hit these metrics. So sure, here's more money.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're tracking all that on the back end, and the bud tenders are kind of, in a weird way, wasted advertising space right now. So you can incentivize them to promote specific brands that is, collectively supported by that retailer, then it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
You should build on your race car analogy. They should be wearing like brands on their shirts, like on their headbands and on their back. Yeah. Okay.
So given the fact that, obviously the cost of turnover is very, very high, right? So what's the cost of, Alpine IQ? And maybe you can walk us through what that looks like. And then what does like an implementation look like?
Yeah, of course. So we actually price very differently than most in the industry. And the reason why is we want our incentives to be aligned. We want to be viewed as a partner, not a marketing tool provider that is taking margin on every text, email, or push notification that's sent. We want to be there right alongside you, working as a partner in every sense of the word. So we actually price based on the platform itself. You pay a per month, per store fee for all of the tools in the platform, and you get access to everything in the platform today. And then you just pay to play on how much you market, which once again, that allows us to stand by our customers and actually act as a partner and give true transparency that they need to understand the success of everything.
What do you mean by pay as you play? So I pay you X amount of dollars, which is interesting. I get everything in the platform. I don't have to buy modules. What you're saying. Correct.
There's no paywalls. There's none of that.
That's cool.
You pay a flat license fee per store per month, and you get the whole platform. On the marketing side, what I mean by pay to play is you just pay for how many texts, how many emails, how many notifications you send. we aren't incentivized by how much you do. I mean, obviously we're not going to tell people don't market, but we don't really care, right? We want you to market to the right amount of people at the right time with the right information, because with these text packages, with these email packages, all these things, retailers are oftentimes incentivized to text and market more than they should, which creates a higher unsubscribe rate. And so there's that happy medium that we don't want to ruin because we're trying to make money on the marketing side of things.
Do you find your customers are overwhelmed by the tech that's being thrown at them? And then the add-on question is, how does Alpine IQ kind of help solve that? Because if I'm not a techie person, if I'm not Matt or you, I'm me. And I got my light bulb.
And believe me, Dave is not a techie person.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out this light bulb thing still. How do I deal with that? Is it so simple that it's not a problem? Are there services? There's coaching, there's training. How does that work?
So lots of coaching and training. We have a client success team that not only goes through coaching and training, but also monitors the success of all of your campaigns and makes sure you're doing everything right. You don't have too many unsubscribes. But on the flip side, we've also found that there's a direct correlation with how much people shop and how much they want to be marketed to. So, you know, your mom that comes in and buys CBD once a month doesn't want to hear from you as a dispensary 3 times a week.
Right.
You know, she's going to unsubscribe. But then your heavy concentrate user that comes in every couple of days, well, they're going to want to hear from you a lot more frequently, and they're going to want to hear about concentrate discounts, concentrate promotions, and maybe a few other, you know, kind of obscure things that may be relevant to them. So we work with our customers a lot to make sure they understand how to market, who to market to, and when they want to hear from you. We also have a lot of machine learning baked in to make their lives a whole lot easier in that regard. So and when I say machine learning, general pattern recognition is a better way to describe it, but that helps them understand, you know, when this person wants to hear from them. You know, we even have what we call a life cycle distribution model, which is tracking the customer's purchase frequency, each customer independently of every other customer. So we know when a customer is sticking to their active shopping cycle or if they're trickling off, and it again is dedicated to each customer. So David, if you shop every 15 days and you stick to that, great, you're active. And we know how much we should market to you based on your shopping pattern. Matt, let's say he shops every 35 days, same thing. He's sticking to his shopping pattern. So we know that he's doing that. We know he's shopping regularly based on how often he wants to come in, and we can market to him accordingly. We can also track if you guys are trickling off and haven't come back in a long time based on your normal shopping pattern, and then address that and try to win you back as a customer.
I love that.
That's incredibly important, especially in this day and age where people get annoyed with either over or under communication. So the fact that you've got that built into your platform is incredible. That's awesome.
I'm trying to get my head around, you're solving a lot of my problems. I don't want to pump your tires, but too much. But I'm busy working at my dispensaries. I've got 1,000 things I'm trying to do. And I know how much time this stuff takes. You know, try to just do 1 or 2 of these SMS campaigns. They take a long time. It's not so simple. Mm-hmm. And not to mention loyalty. Like, how would I even start with that? So that's cool. And I love the idea of it drilling down to per person, rather, because it doesn't really help to know. It's not bad to know, okay, people come every 7 days on average. But if I have 5,000 customers, I don't know how useful that is.
Yeah.
I don't know how actionable it is. But if Matt comes in every 35 days, I guess what you're saying to me is, 1, okay, how do I keep that going? Which is cool. But the second thing is, how do I get him to come in every 10 days? Mm-hmm. What do I have to do? And I assume your data is going to help me do that.
Yeah. And it also help you make sure you're not, over marketing to Matt, because we don't want Matt to unsubscribe and effectively not come to our dispensary anymore because we market to them too much. So we're kind of creating bumpers and boundaries on every side and helping in every regard there.
So, well, we're almost running out of time. But last, if you, so again, Dave's dispensary, or whether now maybe I have, so what if I have 10 dispensaries? I have one dispensary, I have 10 dispensaries, and I have 100 dispensaries. What would be your advice of what would I do first? Where would I start? Where would I focus to get the bang for the buck using Alpine IQ?
So when you have one dispensary, segmentation is not necessarily not useful, but it's just a little less useful, right? Because if you segment down to, a group that likes one category and also spends X amount of dollars, you're targeting a much smaller group of customers. So I would say either way, leveraging Alpine for marketing, regardless of the size of your chain, whether you're 1 store, 10 stores, or 100 stores, is very important. But you do there's a much higher return in terms of segmentation, the larger you are and the more customers you have. And that's also going to depend on the market you're in, right? So medical markets have less customers and they're fighting over less customers versus rec markets who oftentimes have a lot more customers. So I would say no matter what, no matter the size, having a tool like Alpine is useful because on the data analytics side, you're going to get a lot of value out of it. Also, having something where you can engage with your customers and market to them is very important. And having your loyalty program live inside of the customer's phone at any given time outside of the store is very important as well. You're creating a lot of stickiness and engagement where you didn't have it before. And again, that's no matter the size of the company, going to be very important.
I get it. The only problem is I have no dispensaries, so I've been lying to you. You wasted your time.
You got to get on that, Dave.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this afternoon I'm free.
Yeah.
Anyway, and unfortunately we're out of time, and I feel like we've really only started talking about some of these issues. But this is hopefully that's food for thought for people out there who are in the retail side or the business side of cannabis. And you want a one-stop shop that handles your data and marketing. Well, Alpine IQ is definitely something to think about. I'd like to thank Austin Green for coming on the show and spending some time and sharing his expertise with us. Austin, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And if anyone's interested, go check out our website. It's alpineiq.com.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate your time.
Business of Cannabis is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more. So welcome back to the Business of Cannabis. I'd like to introduce our next guest, Riel Roussopoulos. Riel's had a long and interesting background in tech and marketing, and like so many in this cannabis business, he got to start in another industry. For Riel, it was real estate, driving leads for realtors, and in using video, so pretty innovative. Around 7 years ago, he transitioned to the cannabis space, starting with video and growing the offering from there to include branding, PR, an events platform called MindSue. And yes, we'll be asking what that name means. Riel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, David, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so the name of the company is Cannabis Wiki, which is, so tell us first about your journey into this cannabis PR space. Like, how do you go from real estate to this? and then tell us a bit about Cannabis Wiki and what you guys do.
Sure. So how I transitioned, so I have kind of two starts in cannabis. The more recent one was, as you said, I was working in real estate. I was doing lead generation and SEO. I was doing like web kind of higher end marketing, not necessarily just websites for the realtors, but sort of lead gen sites. And I had learned a very important lesson in planning your exit, because I had unsuccessfully tried to sell these sites to some of the bigger real estate, to the brokerages, and I had lots of success with the individual realtors, but learned the hard way that brokerages don't want to generate marketing, because then they would have to decide who gets the lead and stuff, and that then puts
put them in an awkward,
as the head of
yeah.
I will not mention the company name, but as the head of the company said to me, I can count on one hand the number of people who understand marketing who work for me. Most of them sell 3 houses a year, and they failed at 9 other jobs before they landed on real estate, because I can't fire them, and they just give me $200 every time they list a house, and they put my sign on front. Gotcha. I found that very ironic, because it was true though. He was like, I can't, I would then have to round robin the leads, and most of them don't know how to close it. And that's where, I had this moment of like, oh, I really don't want to be selling this one at a time to realtors. And I was I had spent almost a year trying to sell this company, and my realtor partner was doing brilliantly, obviously, because he made all the lead, referrals, and I wasn't doing quite as well. So I went to this event literally on the top of a mountain in Utah that was an entrepreneur.
Jeez, this whole Zen thing. So
it was
you climbed through snow, and
it was so out of character for me
and...
too. It was like, it was this, I got invited, and these guys, I had met them at an event, and they were cool, and it was like, why not? I don't know. I don't even know why it would normally, and it was really expensive too. It wasn't the kind of thing that I would normally do. But I went, and it really was. I've been a number of times to the event since then, because it was so kind of different and transformational. But I met a bunch of these guys from Colorado that were in the early stage of the cannabis business that was evolving in Colorado. This is probably a dozen years ago now, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And it was like this mind sort of, expanding moment of like, this is going to become legal in Canada, like for frickin' sure. And I was living in BC at the time. And I remember, and I like everybody I knew grew weed in their basement.
Right. I was going to say it was sort of legal in BC.
I mean, it pretty much was. Like, there were all these dispensaries on there was like literally more dispensaries than Starbucks in Vancouver at that time, right? Before legalization, they were just everywhere, and the cops weren't shutting them down. And it
like
was
California in those days, like every subway, every stop had
yeah. So the whole idea was just like, well, that's would be a lot more fun than this freaking real estate stuff. So I built this site called socialweedia.com, and it's my model. It was what I was doing in real estate, was building these kind of directory sites for neighborhoods. And so in this case, it was just a directory site of businesses in cannabis and dispensaries and stuff. And immediately, within weeks of launching it, landed some good size marketing deals out of it. And one of them being Glacial Gold, which proceeded to become a couple of years of my life, building that brand into a national brand, which got shut down when legalization happened, which was a killer, and really threw me for a loop, which is partly where I landed with Cannabis Wiki as well. But recently, they've now circled back. The public company that does extraction, Next Leaf Solutions, bought the brand, the legacy brand Glacial Gold. They've just launched in BC, I believe, and I think in Ontario they're launching soon. They have oil edible pill.
Oh, neat. That's such an
tablets
interesting story, like that whole
and
before
vape.
and
Yeah.
after a thing. But that's cool. So
The legacy, it's
yeah.
funny, like we were kind of talking before the break about how the initial round of public companies were all about how fast can they grow their brands. And I think now, or I mean, their grow spaces, you know what I mean? How many feet can I have under grow?
Right. How
And there
many
was
many
no-
pounds per square inch?
Yeah, there was no thought for brand. There weren't even marketing directors for most of those companies. And I think now there's starting to, realize, oh, we have to figure out these differentiating sort of things. And I think you'll see more. I mean, there's been several kind of high profile, Glacial Gold being one of them, acquisitions of legacy companies. And I think you'll see more of that now as companies try to basically just either buy their way into a history or develop their own as well. Like I'm just saying, now it's time to develop the brands, because the initial arms race for the grow space has run its course.
That's an interesting jump off point. Let's talk to me a bit about, in your mind, because you've kind of been in the business and you've seen it from its inception to where we are now. This difference between what what is a brand in cannabis? What does it really mean? And then how do you go about creating it? What are some, are there steps? Is there a step? And how is that evolving? It's a big question. So let's take it in two parts. Like, what do you mean by brand? And is it real? Or are you talking about different sugar waters? I have Coke. No, this is Pepsi. Or
right, but what's okay? So I mean, they're like the two of the most iconic brands in global capitalism. So let's just talk about them in context for a second.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So I mean, what does Coke say to you? What does it mean to you? What Coke versus Pepsi? What are their differentiating brand positionings?
Yeah. Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
I'm telling you. I'm asking you, like, just to you.
So
like,
now,
it's not a test. It's
a
no wrong
test?
or right answer. I'm saying,
it's so
what does
typical. I didn't
Coke say to
study.
you, and what does
Why
Pepsi
did I
say
not
to you?
study last night? Instead, I had to watch Netflix, and I just kept saying stop watching TV, but I wouldn't.
No, but I'm serious. Like, it's not a right or
wholesome.
not. I'm asking your like, what is your perception when you think of Coke? What do you think of? Like,
yeah, wholesome. It's values and wholesomeness and America. And
American, right?
Greatness
and wholesome, and would you say classic?
Yeah, absolutely, and old and like old school and
right. Versus Pepsi is what? Literally, like, can you remember their slogan or whatever? I don't know if it still is. But
is it the next generation or something?
Bam, that's the one I was thinking of too. Right?
Yeah,
maybe we're just aging ourselves there.
We are totally are, because that's probably 20 years ago. But yeah, Pepsi
is. My point is, you nailed it. They have differentiated themselves from Coke because they're both selling fucking brown sugar water, right? Like there's no difference.
Yeah.
But they have differentiated themselves by positioning themselves as the taste of the new generation, where Coca-Cola has very carefully maintained its heritage position of being the original one that you think of when you think of, right? Like we were the ones that were in the war. We were the ones that were like, they're all about the old school. And so Pepsi had no choice but to say, well, fuck you, then we're about the new school.
Right.
Right. And that's at the core a great kind of analogy of brand, of like, what do you identify with that brand? So how, as a cannabis company, can I rise above the noise of all the other cannabis companies out there and resonate with my customers in a way that they think of me when they think of cannabis, or at least they think of me in the top 3 brands when they think of cannabis right now? Because I there might be one brand that I would say has that cachet now, but
which brand would that be?
I knew you were gonna ask that.
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, okay.
Which brand? Reserve that question for the end.
Brand.
What brands in cannabis, are standing out?
So let's delve. One, what? Let's switch gears again a little bit, because and then I'll bring it back to the brand conversation. Sure. Imagine I'm a dispensary. What what can I do to create a story than what I'm hearing a brand like, what's my brand? It's not all product. How do I marry my brand as a, location, a dispensary, a service provider with the products what is the brand? Is it the cannabis? Is it the location? Is it the experience? How do you see that?
I mean, it's all of those things, right? It's from where your store is to how I feel when I walk through the doors to to the how your service staff greets me. I mean, all of that is part of the brand experience at the end of the day. People like to sort of dumb it down to the logo and the color scheme and stuff like that, but those are just elements of a brand. The real brand is that intangible tone essentially that you get when and in terms of how can a dispensary do that? I mean, I think you have to go further back to who are you trying to appeal to, right? Like, who are you serving? Is it are you trying to serve a millennial customer base, or and the instinct is always to be everything to everyone, which is the fatal death spin of all of these brands right now. Like, I literally can think of one that makes a really good brand story, and like, there's just none in Canada for sure. Like, none.
And you're saying what they're doing wrong in your mind is they don't have a clear conception of who their target is.
I think that's the first. Yes, I mean that's the general. We are the fucking Amazon of cannabis. Is like we do everything. We have
that's the goal for everyone, right?
And like,
that'd be a gutsy move, wouldn't it? Though now, on some level, when you don't necessarily know it in clothing, it's easier to say I'm going to go after X market because the markets are so clearly defined. No one would try to create clothing for people from ranging from 10-year-olds to 90-year-olds. No one would do that,
right?
Because obviously,
the
market's been established. You have to pick your market.
Yes.
Cannabis, not so much, because we hear a lot of people say to us, one thing about that's amazing is the demographic is everyone. There's no one type of cannabis user. They're not all kids, the class, the stereotype.
Right. Well, I mean,
40, 50, 60-year-old.
100%, there are different types of cannabis users for sure. And, you would be best served to get laser focused on servicing one of those groups really, really well, to the point where, just like you were with that tablet of yours that you're literally right now writing notes on.
For those of you here, I a product plug. I use the Remarkable 2, which is sort of like a writing tool. A non-paid, but I'm a big advocate. Anyway,
yes. And so I was just bringing it up because you like it enough to have shared it with me in our little pre-interview about how much you like this product. And that's, if you can achieve that with your dispensary brand of like, oh my God, I went to the cutest freaking place. It was so awesome. The staff was so awesome. It was like,
right.
They had like yoga classes upstairs and whatever, whatever it is that makes you resonate with your audience enough that they want to go and tell all their friends about how cool your place is. Bam, you've hit it. And typically that's not going to be something that resonates with everybody the same way. Right, you will have decided the space that you're going to play in, and what you're going to do to win. And let me just say right off the bat, the answer isn't to fucking discount or sell the cheapest product.
Right,
you have no room to move from there. And that's the other tragic thing that seems to be going on with cannabis in Canada, anyway. Is this value brand kind of
race to the bottom,
which is just a race to the bottom, and there's no brand. Like, again, I'm not loyal to XYZ bag of cheap bud. Now I'm just loyal to whatever the cheap bud is, right?
I'm loyal to cannabis, so
I like cheap bud that I can't deny. So.
Right, totally. Well, promote yourself a little bit. So I'm either a grower,
So
I'm a
bad at this.
dispensary, and what does Cannabis Wiki do for me?
Oh, promote Cannabis Wiki. See, that's so much easier because that's somewhat removed from me. And I'm I'm joking because it's it's that talk about yourself or talk about your company.
Right. We'll talk about your company because
Yeah,
now
yeah.
let's make it real. Okay. So because some of these are brand, buzzwords, they're important, but okay, brand, I bought in. I know I have to create a brand, whether I'm a dispensary or I have to create an experience. Okay, I'm in. How do I do that? Let's talk a bit about. Okay,
Sure.
give me some practical.
Well, so first of all,
steps.
Cannabis Wiki is not a branding agency. We're not going to help you necessarily with that stage of that. I do have some great people that I can recommend that are brand people, and for sure you can reach out.
Okay, so I come to you with a brand. I
Yes,
know what I
you
want.
you have your
I got my
brand, you know what you
colors, my
want.
brand, my experience. I'm going after XYZ targets. All that stuff's done.
Right. What we will help you do with Cannabis Wiki is to tell your story in a way that resonates with your audience and reach them through channels that they are tuned into, basically.
So this is PR, this is marketing, this is getting your message out.
Yeah, PR would be kind of I mean, it's all marketing at the end of the day, right? But they're different sort of channels in marketing, and I guess where we kind of specialize is in the news, PR, and event space, using launches, using partnerships with other podcasters, or having shows where your product can be mentioned organically. Doing news about you from a third party perspective so that it doesn't look like you're self-promotional, hey, buy my shit.
Right. It's Dave says this Riel's
right. It's
dispensary is amazing.
This new brand of vaporizer keeps showing up on all these different shows, and it's they're doing reviews about it over here, and it's sitting on the desk of this high influence kind of podcaster or interview show or whatever. So we help you get your message out there, and typically it's again in a very video heavy kind of way, because video is the most powerful medium in my mind, because of the kind of double hit of visual and audio
and the text and the
yeah, I mean, I don't have to sell video. I think everybody knows.
So we're here with Riel Roussopoulos of Cannabis Wiki, cannabis.wiki, talking about marketing and PR and getting your message out and branding, and events. Let me ask about that. Because I mentioned up at the top your platform, and I'm pronouncing it right, Mind Sue. Am I right?
Mind Sue, yes.
Okay, what does that mean? And what because events are such an important part of this industry, and most people would agree it's a bit wild and out of control and not necessarily as effective. But take me through Mind Sue, and then first starting off what it means, and then what it does and how it can be useful. Because I think a lot of people are looking for help in terms of what event should I go to? How do I do an event? All that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, there's the event world kind of exploded pre-COVID, and they're, I guess you could say you need to select which ones you're going to participate in, unless you really have unlimited budgets.
Right.
It did become a little excessive. And then, of course, so Cannabis Wiki's background, we were event media partners with all of the top events in Canada, and so we would just go and do video interviews with all the CEOs and that kind of stuff. And when COVID happened, people were moving to Zoom and solutions that were essentially broadcast solutions, right? So we we wanted to do something that allowed people to interact more the way they would at an event, which is kind of why we go to events, right? You go to an event, you might hear one or two of the speakers, but really you're there to work the room and make contacts and meet new people. And then you can Zoom with them, right? Because you know them.
Because you've met them, yeah.
And so that's what Mindsu, we actually were approached by the producers of Grow and Hemp Fest and the C45, and they were looking for a solution. And we literally built Mindsu to facilitate those cannabis conferences. It wasn't called Mindsu at that time. And so that was 2 years ago now. Basically, this is the second year, a year and a half ago or whatever.
Okay, so Mindsu is to enhance the event experience, networking, meeting people, breaking into rooms.
Sorry,
very cool.
to long sell that. It's a virtual event platform. It solves the event problem of having everybody on mute and not being able to go and network and go to a booth and meet somebody new or hang out in the lobby and meet somebody new. So we make it easy to have these side rooms that you can navigate not that I as the say, okay, now it's networking time and everybody go into this round robin room for 10 minutes.
Right. And everyone just sits. Right. Yeah. I have to talk now.
So it's a much more organic way to kind of meet people. And the fun thing is, now that we've been doing it for a while, is your identity is separate from the conference. So in other words, if you've been to 2 or 3 different events by different promoters, you can see that history of other people that you've met previously and talked with.
Super cool.
So you have kind of a chat,
reconnect, right?
Yeah, and again, because we all go to all the same conferences at the end of the day, right? So there's this kind of history that's now developing that wasn't intentional initially, but it's becoming a really neat kind of additional feature that we hadn't focused on.
Well, Riel, thanks very much. We, as always, run out of time, just as we seem to be delving into stuff. This is Riel Roussopoulos of Cannabis Wiki. That's cannabis.wiki. If you want to learn more about it.
Mindsu.com, which means building face in front of your peers.
We never covered that. Building face, Mindsu. So a virtual event platform. Anyway, Riel, thank you very much. This is very interesting. That whole issue of building your story and getting your story out there is one of the most important. I mean, I believe stories of 2022 that is coming is who's going to emerge as a brand, who's going to emerge as the leading figures, or even on a local level, who's going to establish themselves as the onesies and twosies in a neighborhood and build a powerful business.
I think based on something real. And twosies are actually going to be the really interesting ones to watch, because I think they're the ones that get the real deep love, if you will.
Gotcha. Yeah, they've created that connection, that story, that brand.
Right.
So, Riel, thanks very much for coming. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. This is the Business of Cannabis, and we'll be right back. Smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more. So we come to the end of the show. I think two more interesting guests. George, raises some interesting points about brand and how that's going to transform the industry.
Yeah, and I think you and I might differ on this. I think right now, cannabis is, because it's a new industry. I think that it's about creating an experience and you know, educating people, and eventually it will become a little bit more commoditized, where people come in and they know what they want. And so, you know, right now it might be, you know, the Apple store, but in the future it might be something more like Walmart in terms of how people consume it. I might be totally wrong.
I would agree.
On
We might disagree. I'll agree with that because
that's why
we're
so good together, Dave.
Yeah, I think the typical, you know, the roots of the cannabis industry. There's a whole craft element to this.
Yep,
that I don't know that exists in something like alcohol in the same way. But definitely, if you think brand is going to come to the forefront over the next 2 to 3 years, you might want to start positioning your business that way.
100%. And I think it will. And even if it doesn't become the main reason why people buy your product, it's something you want to do to position yourself for longevity of the industry.
And then we talked to Tim Rybal, Dispense Technologies. Logistics and delivery, maybe not the most exciting. Not sexy, but
it's like infrastructure, not sexy.
But when you're building falls, I was just thinking, if you want to destroy a boring way to destroy your business, then ignore those issues. So that was pretty cool.
100%. Yeah. And, you know, again, it's one of these things that people don't really give a lot of thought to until there's a problem. Right. And I think, you know, you can address it up front before there are problems with Tim's solution. And you don't have to look too much back in history than maybe last year when, you know, supply chain issues came up in food and toilet paper and things like that. So, you know, it definitely addresses some of those potential problems.
The Business of Cannabis has been brought to you by CashTech Currency Products. CashTech Currency Products helps you track, manage, and secure your physical cash at your cannabis dispensaries. Go to www.cashtechcurrency.com for more information.
And thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with a few more guests, and which will help you grow your business, your cannabis business, and just educate you a little bit more. That's all we're trying to do. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
And this has been The Business of Cannabis, is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more. Well, that didn't take long. We're at the end of another show. Austin Green from Alpine IQ and Riel Roussopoulos from Cannabis Wiki. As always, lots to think about. Certainly, Austin Green raises the issues around just having technology in place. In this case, in the marketing field.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's one of the things that people don't necessarily address early on, but how are you going to reach your customers, and how are you going to get them to keep coming back? And I think their platform offers the ability to do that. And you know, it's not just, you know, about staying in contact, it's about giving value. And you know, I think the more of a platform you have like that, the easier it is to stay in touch and offer value to your customers.
You know, I was thinking it's not that platform per se. and we're going to be bringing lots of technologies to the show over the next while. It's you have to have one. You just have to. You can't wait anymore.
It's table stakes.
Yeah,
it's
get
table
one.
stakes. Yeah.
So put the energy and effort into that. And then I thought Riel from Cannabis Wiki just saying, well, it's all great to do all this work. We're talking about branding, and we had a guest the other week who's talking about the rise of the brand as opposed to the dispensary experience, and it's a consumer packaged goods industry over the next. Okay, great, but if you're the tree that falls in the woods and no one hears you, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to get your message out there.
No, and you have to invest in getting your message out there, especially depending on what area you're in, what state you're in. There are a ton of competitors, and how do you differentiate yourself? And
that's one thing competitors are coming. I don't care where you are,
100%.
Even if there's no competitor
100%.
now. You can be a small little town. Tomorrow, a dispensary is opening up across the street.
Yeah, but in some states like Oregon and Washington, I know that there's 23 dispensaries within a mile.
Sure.
And so how do you get your message out? How do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah.
A lot of that comes down to PR, social, what you're doing on social media, and how do you market directly? And I think both guests kind of address that issue. And even if it's something that you're not actively doing right now, you need to be, to your point, Dave. Otherwise, in the very near future, it's going to be problematic.
The Business of Cannabis has been brought to you by Cash Tech Currency Products. Cash Tech Currency Products helps you track, manage, and secure the physical cash in the cannabis dispensary. Go to www.cashtechcurrency.com for more information.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with more guests and trying to help you grow your cannabis business in any way that we can help. If you have any questions you want to ask us, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, or go to cashtech.currency.com, and we'd be happy to help.
And this has been the Business of Cannabis.
You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.